This is the Gambling Gauchos.
Welcome into the Gambling Gauchos After Dark, brought to you by Barnett, Howard, and Williams. We hope you never need to call them, but if you do, you can. Red Raider owned. Like 17 Red Raider degrees between these guys. Great day of Big 12 action. Texas Tech obviously with the win. Texas falls again. Time to Oklahoma State. And Kansas State and TCU in action currently. Kansas as well this morning. Kyle, where do you want to start, man?
I think we ought to start – well, the big ones are TCU, K-State, and Texas, Oklahoma State. We can start in Stillwater because I think that game was kind of like an elimination game of sorts in the Big 12 title race. So I guess we can start there and then work our way across the Big 12.
Absolutely. I think Oklahoma State saved their season, quite frankly. Can we put to bed the Quinn Ewers stuff? If Quinn Ewers was healthy, they'd be undefeated. Can we end that?
Yeah, I think so. And I said as much when Tech beat Texas. You know, Hudson Card played a good game. He had one bad interception, but besides that, he was efficient. He was accurate. It didn't seem like they were lacking a quarterback without Quinn Ewers. And today they had him. He played dreadfully. And so, I think it is absolutely time to put that narrative to bed.
As we kind of try to formulate power rankings through these kind of things, as you kind of see everyone playing each other now, is it TCU and Oklahoma State on a collision course, or do you think Kansas State and Texas and, I don't know, Texas Tech mathematically still in it can maybe make some noise throughout the end of this thing?
It definitely seems like TCU and Oklahoma State are the two favorites. You know, it would be not a shock, but a surprise if somebody else got to that title game with two losses. I guess K-State could get there with one conference loss, even after losing tonight, you know, if they won out. But it seems like it's trending toward TCU, Oklahoma State. And, I don't know. We'll see if some of these two-loss teams have anything to say about it. But, it kind of seems hard to see a different outcome at this point, but not impossible.
And kind of as the teams that weren't involved in the conference championship race today, Texas Tech looks really good. Baylor looks really good for a half. And then Kansas kind of almost came all the way back. I don't know how much of that game you got to watch, but Baylor, are they good or not? I can't figure Baylor out.
I think if they were good, they would have shown us more by now. And I only saw the first half of that game, and so it was like, I don't know, 28-3 at one point. And so I was like, okay, yeah, like Baylor's bouncing back, Kansas stinks. And then I see the final score in the stadium, and I'm like, well, never mind, I guess, because that was, I guess it wound up being a somewhat competitive game. I mean, they covered, and, you know, it was a two-possession game, but they don't look like a team that can really just put anybody away by 3 or 4 possessions like Texas Tech did today. And, you know, they could still win. I don't know. They could still have like a winning record in conference play, but they don't seem like a good enough team to just absolutely put somebody away like that, you know?
Yeah, they could never put West Virginia away. And then you have Texas Tech today putting away West Virginia. Baylor getting a big lead. So as you kind of look ahead at some of these matchups in the next couple of weeks, I don't know. I feel pretty good about Texas Tech, Baylor. TCU has to feel good. I think they go to Morgantown. That passing attack is going to hurt West Virginia pretty bad, I think. Is Oklahoma? Did we learn anything about them on the bye? No. So I do think it's pretty much the 4 teams that played today. Are we putting Kansas State out of the conversation?
No.
Is Adrian Martinez hurt?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Kansas State, to a large extent, still controls their own destiny if they beat Oklahoma State. You know, I think it kind of boils down to TCU plus the winner of that K-State, Oklahoma State game. And then Texas kind of, I guess, in 4th in that type of conversation.
Who's 5th?
the winner of Tech versus Baylor next week?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Do you want to get to our first speaker?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Chase, you got to tell us who is the biggest contender to TCU and who's the worst team in the Big 12?
All right, worst teams. Unfortunately, sorry, Larry. It's still Iowa State. You're 0-4. I'm sorry. So Cyclones, you're last. TCU, I hope you get another $50,000 fine because you're rushing the field right now, beating a team that you're more highly ranked than. Don't get that. I started with TCU's favorite. I started with like 3 questions and it quickly elevated to like 10 questions. So I'll leave them to like the mailbag. And like Rob, first one you have to answer tomorrow is the profile picture. What more background on that? I'm glad we can put Quinn Ewers to bed now because it's the cute story's over. You were not going to be 10-2 and be in the playoff. We all knew it. It's just some ESPN propaganda and whoever else was covering that crap. First question I have 2 questions, and I'm going to leave the other 8 to the mailbag. First question is Matty okay? Like, we all need to know, is he alive? Is he in jail? Is he okay? Second question, will Rob break sober October when I'm in Lubbock next week? I have to know. I want to go to a brewery. I want to be with Rob. Can he go to November 2nd? That's what I need to know.
I'll answer the first one, then I'll let Rob take the second one. Matty, as of 5 minutes ago when I stepped outside to start Gauchos After Dark, he was just fine and not in jail. And so I hope it is still the case. But yeah, he's doing good.
The real thing is we could go ask him to speak if you want to talk to him. If you want to talk to Matty.
No, you got to get Matty on. We need to hear this voice. We got to hear it.
I can get like 12 picadors on this in 3 seconds.
I'm just so pissed at the photo edits this weekend.
They want to say hi to y'all on the spaces.
What up? What up? Hey, this is Mateo No Man.
There you go.
Cathartic.
The other question, if Texas Tech beats Baylor, October ends on the 29th. I'll say that much.
All right, so I'll give a third question. And Kyle, do the math tomorrow. Let's just be homers and say Tech finishes 9-3. They run home field. They beat the shit out of Iowa State. Sorry for the language for your mother-in-laws. And they upset TCU. Could we be in Arlington when my child is born?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is trending to where it is somewhat likely that a 2-loss team gets to Arlington. Whether that's Texas, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, I mean, so Texas has 2 losses now in the conference. K-State, Oklahoma State have 1 apiece. Still have to play each other. So TCU as a front runner, it kind of doesn't matter if they get there with 0 or 1. I think that their opponent, it's probably like, 50-50 that their opponent has 2 losses. So, yeah, if you win the next 2 and you have a victory over TCU under your belt and only 2 conference losses, then you look at the last 3 games and think that, you'd have a shot. You'd have the tiebreaker over Texas. You'd have the tiebreaker over TCU if there's a tie there. The problem would be that it would be so jumbled based on like how everybody finishes. So you lost Oklahoma State and Kansas State head-to-head. If they had 2 losses, I don't know how that would shake out. Like if there's a 3-way 2-loss team tie, I don't know how they would do that. But I guess there's a chance. I mean, that's a long shot. You have to go 5-0 to even see if it's in the cards. But I wouldn't rule it out because I do think that a 2-loss team will be in Arlington.
I think something wild would happen. I think something wild would have to happen with TCU losing 2 as well, and you need Texas Tech to own the tiebreaker with TCU because they don't own it with Kansas State or Oklahoma State. That's the tough part.
No, I agree on that part, and so I'm going to get off here in a second, let Chuck hop in. But one, I just want to say to all the parlay picadors out there, I'm excited for you guys to bring those backdrops out tomorrow. I'm happy for that little brainchild that came to fruition. India, good country, good customer service, and just love you guys. Thank y'all for doing this.
Love you too, Chase. What's up, Chuck?
Do we even know what the Big 12 tiebreaker is? Because that's what we're going to end up with. Like it's going to be a Big 12 South 2008 situation, and we're going to have 3 teams with 1 loss, trifecta of sorts. What is it now? Do y'all know? Is it something reasonable? Not the highest ranks in the AP poll, something like, I don't know, points scored or something?
It is. I think it's there's at one point it was points for in conference play, but I'm not sure that it's even that anymore. It might be a point differential.
Isn't that why Aranda kicked a field goal last year when they were already beating OU?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Kyle,
but that's differential.
You're our rain man. That's why.
Points.
Hey, go with me. This is a long shot, but I think that there's a scenario where Texas Tech, Texas, TCU, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State could all have 2 losses.
Dude, inject it into my veins.
So, you can do tiebreaker, but if you have 5 teams and their own head-to-heads and, it kind of just crumbles, I think what it would be at that point is, your record against the other 2, 3, or 4 teams that you're tied with, and they would do it that way.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
I think I don't know enough to disagree with you there. I'll save my Ewer slander for the Discord because I could go on. But Kyle, push-up update. Haven't seen anything in a few days.
Shoot, man. I'll be honest here. I think we'll be accountable. So I did the push-ups for 6 or 7 days there, and then it hasn't happened since. So,
well, I don't surely a guy that could take down a bear can do a few hundred push-ups every day for the rest of the month.
You would think, but I don't know if it's going to shake out that way, Chuck, if we're being honest. I might need an extension into November, and I think I can get it done by Thanksgiving if I can get an extension on it.
This was a commitment that you made to your co-host. You didn't make it to us. We are just your accountability.
Yeah.
Y'all have a good night, guys.
You too, man. Thanks for chiming in.
Yeah, we'll figure something out, Kyle.
Sounds good.
Draw a big pop from the picadors, though.
So we're going to recap more in depth Tech versus West Virginia. The last game, we talked about a little bit Baylor versus Kansas, and is Baylor good? We can kind of go a little more in depth on that. But you and I both, and people can pull the tape if they don't believe it, but when Kansas started 5-0 and they had game day, you and I both said there's a very real chance that they're about to go 0-7, and they're halfway there right now. They fall to 5-3, and some of that is that their quarterback is injured, but their quarterback wasn't going to stop Oklahoma from scoring 52 points. Their quarterback wasn't going to stop TCU from scoring 38 points. So they have other issues besides just that, and I'm not saying that it's no big deal to lose a guy like JT Daniels or Jalen Daniels, excuse me. But are we still on that prediction? Do you think they'll be favored, or do you think that they're going to be scrapping for bowl eligibility through the end of the season?
Yeah, they're going to be scrapping. They might win one more, but I don't know who it is. People talked about it being Texas Tech in Lubbock, but until you lose in Lubbock, I'm not going to chalk that up. And it could happen this weekend, but I think at this point Texas Tech will open as a favorite against Baylor.
I think it's going to be close, and I do want to get to our predictions of Big 12 opening lines, but go with me here on this storyline. If KU does fall to 5-6, their last game of the season is their in-state rival, Kansas State, and I don't know if Kansas State is going to be playing for a Big 12 championship game appearance at that point, or if they're going to be more like a, 7-4, 8-3 type team by that point. I don't know, but that would be a pretty juicy storyline if Kansas was fighting for bowl eligibility for the first time in 13, 14 years, whatever it's been, against a potentially beatable Kansas State team, depending on how they look at the end of the year.
Yeah, and we need to know the health of Adrian Martinez. Will Howard looked good in spots tonight, but we've seen a lot of Will Howard over the last 3 years. He is what he is. So I don't know about Kansas State right now, and if Jalen Daniels, who's been practicing, can come back Kansas is obviously a different team with him back there. I like how you said it was juicy, though. That is a juicy kind of thing to pay attention to.
Very juicy. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in to Gauchos After Dark, sponsored by Barnett, Howard, and Williams. We'll get to another speaker request. We got Briggs in the queue. What's up, man?
Let's go.
Hey, boys. Two things. Kyle, would you say this is an amazing Gauchos After Dark? I've got one other question. I'll listen to the answer here.
I'd say it's solid. It's good for sure. I don't know if I'd go amazing because I don't know if we're at like an elite championship level right now. But it is good. I'll give you that much.
Number two, hey, will you grab a couple of beers and bring them into us, please? And by the way, Maddie wants to ask a question. Hold on.
If you tell me where they are out here, I'll bring them in.
This is for Chase, I think.
Okay.
Speak, man.
Maddie, come on.
He's gone mute.
I saw Maddie. He took the phone from Briggs and just handed it right back. He was like, no, I'm not saying anything.
What a rat. We'll move on to Thomas. What's up, man?
How's it going tonight? Great things as far as, obviously a great day if it's Tech wins, Texas loses. And not to just steal y'all spotlight on the read, but we got Rahino barbecue tonight, so
let's go.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is so obviously two different kinds of quarterbacks here, but does Kansas with Daniels kind of remind you of Texas Tech with Mahomes, where defense is just hit and miss, not even really there. And, of course, you could just have to have a quarterback who's keeping you in games. And now that they're out, or now that Daniels is out, they're just kind of, showing old Kansas.
Yeah, I would say closer to 2016 Texas Tech with Patrick. Maybe not because I don't think they have a DeAndre Washington and a Jakeem Grant and a bunch of electric offensive pieces. But you certainly have some serviceable pieces that Jalen Daniels can change a game. And again, I feel like I was beating a drum and getting chastised for not believing in Kansas through the first 4 weeks. But, I mean, again, they beat Tennessee Tech and Duke. Like, a lot of quarterbacks look good against Tennessee Tech and Duke. Now, Duke has won some games in the ACC, but I never saw it. And I think Jalen Daniels is good, but I don't think he comes back and just wins the last four like Bobby Boucher in the Mud Bowl.
Rob, you and Don Williams, deserve a pat on the back for not buying into Kansas. But I do think there's something to be said. So, I mean, the three teams I would put at the bottom of the Big 12 right now in some kind of order, Kansas, West Virginia, and Iowa State. And the first two, if they're going to beat you, they need to win in a shootout like those not so great 2014, 2016 Texas Tech type teams, which I think gets to your question, Thomas. But Iowa State, different animal. They're such a great defensive team that they need to beat you, 21-17 or something like that. And so very different styles of play at the bottom of the Big 12, and all three are capable of punching up and beating a team in the middle of the conference or maybe even more toward the top of the conference. But it's going to be a totally different style. And I think the data bears that out on West Virginia, that they're a really good offense, really bad defense. And really, to Texas Tech's credit, they defended West Virginia better than almost anybody has this season and made them look like not such a great offense, which they definitely are, at least on paper. So I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, and it does confuse me a little bit because I'm not prepared to not say that West Virginia isn't the worst team in the Big 12, which makes the Texas Tech win today a little bit hollow. But I mean, you put up 48 and held them to 10. I mean, it's not a big difference. And you look around the rest of the conference, Baylor looked bad on offense and defense in the second half against Kansas. And you've seen that from Texas Tech this season, but they finally put together a full game, which is what Baylor has not been able to do, is put together a full game.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. We got another speaker in the queue. Alan, give us your thoughts on TCU's top contender and who you think the worst team in the Big 12 is.
Worst team, Iowa State has to be still. Just because, at least for right now, West Virginia has a good home win last Thursday. But I just really want to see no discredit to TCU, but can they just please for once face a healthy quarterback? Like, I feel so bad for K-State tonight. And it wasn't just Martinez. It was just they had some following Kurtz's page, he was saying that there were some defenders, some linebackers that were out too. But we wanted to see everybody at full strength, of course. But it just really, really was sad to see that. But I think Iowa State for sure is still the worst, no question. But wouldn't surprise me at all if that game next week, TCU goes to Morgantown, is a little bit crazy. We know that's a hard pace to play. I'm not saying TCU is going to lose. I'm just saying that could get out of hand after West Virginia getting smacked today. So we'll see, but just my thoughts.
I think you're right. And Morgantown is not a super easy place to play. Even, like in the seasons where they're not so good or when Iowa State isn't so good, a place like Morgantown or Ames, it's tough for those Texas schools to travel to and win. And so, Baylor, for as good as Baylor has been several years in the Big 12 era, they've still never won in Morgantown. So
that's just unbelievable to think about. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, like you said, I don't know if I'd go as far as to predict an upset. I mean, we'll see what the spread is on that game, but I could see that game being competitive with as suspect as TCU's defense has been. I could see a high scoring affair where, it's the kind of game where either team can win it in the fourth quarter. And obviously TCU is the better team, but I wouldn't necessarily expect them to just go in there and win by 3 possessions and it not be a competitive game in the second half.
Yeah. Yep. Does anybody know what happened with Martinez tonight? I haven't been really keeping up with it, but I couldn't see or read anything or heard anything. Just curious if anybody knows anything.
I have not seen, and we can put the word out. Any Kansas State fans in the chat? I know you're pretty broken up right now, but if you have any information on Adrian Martinez, I have not actually seen anybody say a definite thing. And then Will Howard was out for a couple of plays in a drive, but he got back out there.
Yeah, and their third stringer threw a pick during that time, which was just a huge blow for him.
His first throw.
Yeah, and with Martinez, I mean, obviously it's not something serious because he's still in full pads, wearing a helmet on the sideline. Like, he's not even in the locker room for any kind of examination, but obviously he wasn't good enough to go back in. So I don't know. I haven't seen either or heard, but it seems like a little bit of a strange deal. I guess we'll maybe learn more later tonight or maybe tomorrow on what his status is, but I hope he's able to come back.
He threw a ball really wide. Did he just get benched?
Hey guys, this is Jake. I was watching the end of the game, and I was looking all over Twitter trying to figure it out. They have no idea from the game because they didn't have a sideline reporter to find out. But they're thinking it might be a hip injury of some sort. I don't know, but yeah, that's all they know for sure right now is I don't know, but they're thinking hip injury. So,
how did FS1 not have a sideline reporter? That is unreal to think about.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that too. If y'all can hear me, they did mention on the broadcast, Brando at one point said something kind of alluding to the fact, and it sounded like he might have had some inside info, but was trying to cover it up, but who knows, that Martinez may not have been 100% from the get-go. And Kansas State didn't really want to broadcast that, and they may have wanted to try him out for a few series and see how it went. So there's that speculation out there as well. And while I've got your attention, I just want y'all to know those of you going to TCU in 2 weeks, they have $3 beer from gates open until 30 minutes before kickoff. Just felt like that needed to get out there.
Awesome. Should we let Beyonce Barbie in?
That seems like a Russian bot. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we just got Alan Corbin in. What's up, Alan?
Gauchos, Gaucho Nation. How are y'all doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Right now, I'm against my therapist's wishes. I am doing the Laramie test tonight. Wyoming up 17-7 on Utah State starting the second half. To Texas Tech matters, when do we think about Sonny Dykes starting his late season swoon? Because it's happened every year. He's had a supposedly good team. So does that happen against Tech, or does that happen against Texas after they play Tech?
I mean, could it happen in Morgantown?
I really don't want to come across as like sour grapes and stuff, but and I mean, hey, it's hard to go undefeated in any league under any circumstances, but they've caught some serious breaks, right? Like I'm not in denial saying that, am I? Are they maybe not quite as good as their record says?
Major breaks.
I just feel like they have caught a lot of breaks, and every time I see them play, they look extremely beatable. If you put Tech out there in their performance today against West Virginia, against what TCU did today, I have a good feeling that Tech would have a good chance to win that game on the last possession. I don't have any qualms about saying that, and that's not being a Tech homer either. Watching the amount of TCU football I've seen this year, they seem beatable if Tech's playing their best game.
I am really excited to see that fan base show up or not show up, and Texas Tech fans to run them out of the building because they've been talking a lot of trash about it. But we do have a game in between. Kyle, do you want to try to predict some lines here for next week in the Big 12?
Yeah. Do you have the games pulled up?
Yes, I can get them.
All right. Yeah. Hit me with them, and I'll give you my best guess.
All right, first is Oklahoma State going to Manhattan. No Adrian Martinez likely. Oklahoma State at Kansas State.
Yeah, that's hard to say without knowing Adrian Martinez's status. I would expect Oklahoma State to be maybe a really slight favorite. With the uncertainty on 9 a.m., I would say maybe Oklahoma State -3.
Yeah. I agree. I was going to say 2.5.
Yeah, I think right in there.
Anybody else have a Oklahoma State, Kansas State line prediction?
DraftKings has a line out, but I'm not going to go public with unless you want me to.
What do they have? Yeah.
K-State -3.
Okay.
I think that'll shift after tonight's result, plus maybe the injury uncertainty.
Up next, TCU at West Virginia in Morgantown. Are we looking at a full touchdown here on the road?
No, I really don't think so. I think it'll be in the 4 to 6 range. I'll just split the difference there. I'll say TCU -5.
Okay, I'll trail on that. 5.5, 6 maybe, but we'll see, because it closed at -4 today with West Virginia and Texas Tech and Lubbock. So might give West Virginia a little bit of credit for being better in Morgantown.
I think if it's all the way at if I'm off on this and it's 7 or more, I'd probably jump on that. I think that would be a byproduct of the public sentiment on West Virginia being probably too low.
Yeah.
And if I can get a full touchdown, I'm probably taking that at the open.
You're taking West Virginia?
Yeah.
Oh. And then the Oklahoma State Iowa State line is actually already out. It looks consensus, but they've been putting Oklahoma lines out real early. Of course, both these teams on a bye.
Yeah.
Last week, so it's pretty well locked in, I believe. What would you say it starts at, and then I'll tell you what it is.
I would actually say Iowa State by 2.5.
Really? No, it's plus 6.5 Iowa State.
Yeah, that's really surprising to me. I would take the Cyclones for sure.
And then the final game, all three of those at 11 a.m.
So just like, I mean, this is only one source, but FPI gives Iowa State a 62% chance to win.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So if
this might even up tomorrow as more books roll in.
Yeah. So if they're better than 60-40 to win straight up and you're getting 6.5 points, I think that's a good deal.
And then finally, the only night game next week on ESPN2 with Patrick Mahomes in town, Baylor at Texas Tech.
Yeah. Before today, I would have thought you'd be a slight home dog. Now I think it'll open really close to a pick 'em, like maybe 1 or 2 in one direction or the other. But I'll just say pick 'em.
I want to say -3, but the way West Virginia opened and closed at -4 and then got back to -4, even though you're undefeated at home, I think they'll open Baylor as at least a pick 'em. -1 maybe.
You think Baylor might be favored by 1?
No, I think Texas Tech might be favored by 1.
Okay. Yeah, that I'm curious on a lot of these because a lot of them seem like toss-up-ish type games in the Big 12. And I guess you've got Kansas and Texas on a bye next week, so which that seems a little bit fitting, kind of based on where both of those programs are.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about our sponsor one more time?
Yes, Gauchos After Dark. Every Saturday night, Rob and I do kind of a recap, look around the Big 12. And this Twitter Spaces is sponsored by our friends at Barnett, Howard, and Williams. They're a law firm in the Fort Worth area that handles catastrophic injury, family law, criminal defense, and what kind of makes them unique among other law firms in Texas is they're certified for Title IX student litigation. So if any college students needed representation in that area, they're well equipped to do that. You can learn more about them at bhwlawfirm.com. Like they always say, they hope you never need them, but they're here for you if you do.
All right, any final thoughts? Any final speakers? My phone may not make it too much longer, but if it dies, I'll just go out there and talk to Kyle.
Yeah, I'm on 7%, so I don't have much longer either.
Let's do this. Let's wrap it up tonight and have a recap tomorrow afternoon for everybody.
Yeah, and if you want to send in questions on our Discord mailbag, you can join the Discord at patreon.com/gamblinggauchos, and we'll do kind of an in-depth review of Texas Tech, West Virginia, and then, of course, later in the week, our preview of Texas Tech, Baylor, and some other picks around the Big 12 once those lines are out. So we hope everybody tunes in for that.
Love y'all.
Love y'all.
Y'all have a good one.